This is Michal from Ablaze, and you are listening to the Dan Chen Show.
Hey, Michael from Ablaze. How are you and how are things in? Well, you're from Prague, but you're 100 miles. Is it east or west in the countryside, middle of nowhere? A bit of a weekend retreat, is it?
Yeah, hi, Dan. Yeah, everything's fine. I'm actually staying a little bit outside Prague, like 100 kilometers away from Prague, eastwards, remote place, no people, nothing, just, autumn weather. Just, it's fine. It's black metal.
Awesome. Awesome. Do you find inspiration from these places you go to?
Well, actually, I do. I intentionally leave Prague from time to time to clear my mind. And, I get my inspiration when I go for long hikes in forests, ideally when the weather is not nice. That's when I clear my mind. And that's when the inspiration for lyrics comes, for example, and music as well. So, yeah, it's actually the time of the year when the time for new music is.
Awesome. So, on to Altars Ablaze. You released your debut album, Life Desecration, only a few weeks ago now. How good is it to finally have that debut album out, and what has the reaction been to it?
Well, it's definitely a very pleasant feeling because we started working on the album back in 2021. That's when we started recording the first tracks for the albums. And it took quite a while to nail down the final sound. So it feels nice. It feels great because we've got a strong lineup. It's a new band, but formed by seasoned musicians.
Yeah.
And we're a gang of friends who have known each other.
I'm going to ask you this shortly about the history of the band.
Okay.
So
anyway, it's a gang of friends. We've done some music together after many, many years. And it feels great because we have nailed the sound. The songs are tight. And the response so far from the reviewers has been really great and surprising, given how extreme the music is. So, yeah, so far I cannot say anything negative about it.
I always find myself gravitating towards this question when I interview people when your new albums come out. But do you find yourself looking for reviews and looking at the YouTube comments and stuff like that? Or do you kind of avoid that?
No, I think we try to avoid that. So luckily we've been under the Lavadom Productions label, and they've been doing a great job with an agency to promote the album elsewhere, all over the place. And so we've actually been getting the reviews without asking for them.
Right.
And most of them are actually very, very positive, which is very pleasant feeling. Obviously, we do look at the responses from the people as well. But given that we are a new name, this is a first album, I guess we don't have to put too much weight to it.
Exactly. Now, tell me about the process from the outset of this record. How do you like to write? How was the recording process approached? Was this done during COVID? Was the pandemic affecting any elements to it?
It was done during the COVID, but I don't think the pandemic actually impacted that. I think the only effect was that we had a bit more time to work on the record, but we've got a main composer, and his name is Tomas, and he's the guitar player, not only in Altars Ablaze, but also in Heaving Earth. And I have to say, we are so fortunate to have him in the band because he's probably the best person, the best composer to write death metal in this country. And I think actually he writes death metal that goes beyond the borders of this country. So he's the guy who comes up with the most ideas, with the basics of the songs and everything, and then we kind of contribute to the final arrangements and everything. And I write the lyrics as well. And then what we did was we actually wrote 8 songs. Thought that was enough for the first album, and made sure that it was tight. So we had rehearsed the album for about almost a year. And then we went to studio, which was a very quick process because everything was tight. Then we took some time to make sure that the final sound had the right touch. So we worked with Chris Erkens, who produced an album by Cambion. And I think he actually, kind of got the essence of the sound. So that's where we spent a bit more time to search for the final sound. But yeah, this is how things worked. So I think we found the formula. That's what I'm trying to say. We are very happy with the album. The sound is great. I think the songs are tight. The 30 minutes, is just enough. It's just straight on. If you think it's fast, it's not fast enough. We just kind of press on. So no, I think we're happy. We're happy. But and obviously the bar is going to go up.
Yeah, of course. And do you like the black and death genre you've been given, or is that something you've pushed in yourselves? Or because you have got twinges, there are huge twinges of black in there, and obviously it's a death metal band. But what's your opinion?
I don't think we've been given this genre in a way, but most of us come from the death metal scene. So I think you can actually spot that in the songwriting.
Yeah.
Because we started with the riffs and with some song structure, which kind of stems from death metal. But what we like to do is take some extreme parts of death metal, mainly the kind of Florida style, and then we like to try. We like to take the extreme parts of black metal. I don't like the kind of atmospheric stuff and stuff. What we like is the kind of militant, fast, blasting black metal like Marduk, 1349, Ceteriel, All Dark Funeral, all that. So we kind of take the extreme of both sides and refine the kind of blend of each, of each genre. And we try to kind of bring it together to come up with our own formula. So I don't think we've been given the, and it kind of comes natural because we like both things. So, that's basically how we approach it.
It's a fantastic album, mate, and you've nailed that for sure. Now, lyrically, what are the themes? You write the lyrics. What are the themes behind the tracks? I'm hoping that it's full-on blasphemy with a band name like that.
Oh, yeah, it is absolutely full-on blasphemy.
Yes.
I mean...
That's what dragged me to... When I saw your band name, I was like, I need to check this band out, that's for sure. Altars Ablaze, come on.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's where you go. Actually, the name was inspired by some fundamentalist Christians, who have got an event called Altars Ablaze, because what they want to do is set the pagan altars ablaze. Right. But you know what? I mean, for us, we don't make any differences, no discrimination. We just want to set all altars ablaze because we just think that any religion is stupid. Any dogma is absolutely illogical.
Amen.
It just doesn't make sense.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Thank you very much. Yeah, there we go. So we just don't make any differences. It's just like, let's go and destroy all the shrines, all the religions, all the dogmas, anything, because it's just for stupid sheep. Anyway, so that's what the name actually infers. Then when you look at the album title, it's called Life Desecration. It's actually supposed to be the antithesis of the Christian notion, life celebration. They've got this thing like, let's celebrate life eternal, whatever it is, whatever it means, which is funny because when you look at, the Catholic Church and their belief, it's all about guilt. It's about sin. It's about suffering. You look at their Jesus Christ, who is spreading his arms on a kind of touching instrument. It's like, how can you call this life celebration? Yeah. Right? So it came up with the opposite, which is like, it's life desecration. And if you look at what the church has actually done, over the past 2,000 years, I'm sorry, it's not life celebration because they've been involved in so many bad things.
Of course.
So it's actually, what the church does, what the religions do, is actually desecrating life. And so that's one part of the things, but we kind of look at things slightly differently. And if you look at wars, mass death, religion has always been involved in that. Always. So I'm sorry, don't talk to me about life celebration, right? I know. So, the lyrics go to war, go to blasphemy, go to mass death, but it kind of, it's all connected by dogmas, religions, and everything, because it's kind of supported, it's encouraged, it's triggered. So we're trying to draw attention to those type of things, right? So, there's something wrong with the human species, because if you have got a human herd believing in dogmas and everything, and some of the institutions, religious institutions, are abusing it.
Of course.
So it's kind of very broadly said, but yeah, there you go.
Well, you've got your neighbours, Poland and Nurgle, who have had on the show before from Behemoth. They struggle with the Polish regime and their system and their blasphemy laws. What's the Czech Republic like for that?
Well, I think Czech Republic is actually very relaxed. I mean, if you look at the census, that's done, and when people are asked about religion, 90% of people say they are atheist, right? So you probably only get like 10% of people in the Czech Republic who say that they are affiliated with church or belief or something like that, which is 1 million people out of 10 million, which is fine. But then the remaining 9 million will say, oh, we believe in something higher.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, when you go and, do some blasphemous stuff and, talk about Satan, talk about church, most people don't give a shit.
It's all right with it.
To be honest. So it's very different to Poland, for example. Poland is very different.
Did I read that Czech Republic is one of the most atheist countries, especially in Europe? Did I read that?
Yeah, I think
it
so.
is, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think that's right about.
Yeah, that's right. Now, the album artwork is very cool. How involved do you get in this process? And tell me about it. It's very cool. I'd like to see that on a T-shirt. I hope you do that.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. We paid a lot of attention to the album artwork, and we were fortunate to come across the guy from Portugal, Nuno Zucchi, of Belial Necro Arts.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we were searching for was something that would connect the kind of blasphemy part with something that is a little bit inhuman. And we wanted to have something in black and white. And I think Nuno's works were really appealing to us. So we were very involved, actually. So I personally had a lot of discussions back and forth with Nuno, and I tried to explain to him what we were after as a band, what the lyrics, what the message behind the lyrics was. And I think he got it really, really well, because what we actually wanted to express through the artwork was that if you look at the faith that people have, call it Catholic faith, call it Christian, whatever other faith, it typically stems from mass graves, because there is a lot of death underneath that, because people are going to fight for their dogmas, for their faiths. People are going to die. People are going to fight against one another and everything. So that's where the so-called good things stem from. So I think he nailed it actually quite well. So we worked with Nuno on the artwork for the album, for the single. And I think I can actually reveal that we already have artworks for the next album and the next singles and everything, because we're super excited by working with Nuno, because he really got it. He himself plays in a black metal band, I think multiple bands, so he kind of nailed it. So, and he was so easy to work with. We would give him an idea. He would come back with a few questions, go to the point. And you know what? 1 week later, we would have the artwork, and the artwork was just spot on.
Yeah.
And since we all grew in 90s, and we were fans of all black metal and death metal, we like those iconic artworks.
Absolutely.
And I think we actually accomplished that. So we wanted to have something like that.
You've got your own now, mate. You've got your own.
With our own. Yeah, thank you.
That's for sure. That's for sure. I want a T-shirt with that on. All right.
Let me know afterwards. We've got plenty of them. And it looks really, really, really great on T-shirts, by the way.
Awesome. So all of you guys in the band aren't strangers to the extreme music scene. Did you know each other before you started? I think you mentioned that you were friends, or was this a fresh, as you like, project from the start? Let's have some history of the band.
Well, it was actually a fresh project, but all of us have known one another for years, actually. So Thomas, who is the guitar player, and I played in Heaving Earth. So we did the first album by Heaving Earth together. And we did some other music as well together. Then the other guitar player, Frank, he and I did the first Supreme Conception record, which was technical death metal. Then the bass guitar player, he has got another death metal band, but we also were members of Imperial Photicide together. So we've been, a gang of friends who've kind of come across, here and there in different bands. What we lacked was the drummer, but we found him in another band. So let's say 4 out of 5 people in the band had known each other for years, if not decades, right? So it was the friendship and the mutual connection and the chemistry. But we knew we wanted to do music together, but we also had a vision that we wanted to do something different. Not death metal, not brutal death metal, not technical death metal. We wanted to find our niche place between black and death metal, something that would be very straightforward, based on blasting drums, really kind of elevate the intensity of the music, build on what kind of all the bands like Angel Corpse have done in the past, take the best elements of Marduk, 1349, whatever, you name it, but kind of elevate things to the next level. And I think we've accomplished that with the first album, but obviously, there's always space to go. So so that's the history. We started back in 2020. Everyone was a seasoned musician. We had a vision. We worked on the songs, came up with a debut album, and we're going to kind of push forward.
So what about your vocals? When did you learn that you had this amazing vocal strength, and how do you look after your voice?
Well, yeah, I mean, thanks for the feedback on that. I've been doing this since 1998, 2000, whatever, so quite some time. But I moved out of Czech Republic back in 2011. So that's when I stopped doing music. Before that, I was doing mainly brutal death metal and stuff like that. And I don't think I was actually doing it that great, but I only realized what it takes when I was living outside the country, because I started writing for a music magazine. I was doing interviews with seasoned musicians. And during that process, I was actually doing some ad hoc stuff with very good musicians. And then I realized that I was not doing a good enough job. So I started taking lessons for vocals. And I started kind of getting inspiration from people who were doing a great job vocally. And so, I was taking vocal lessons for 2 years. And I understood that what it took was like really disciplined approach, meaning rehearsing 2 or 3 times a week on a regular basis for a few hours, taking a good care of the voice and everything. And well, I took some advice from proper singers, like people who do classical music and stuff like that, and translated that into what I'm doing now. I mean, I had the basics in death metal, but I'm a big fan of black metal as well. So I try to kind of blend both things.
It works. And how do you approach a live show or a studio? How do you prepare your voice for you about to belt it out?
Well, I think there are 2 parts of that. One is the regular practice. So if you practice a few times a week on a regular basis for weeks and weeks, then you create a foundation. That's number one. Number 2 is when you go to studio, I think you have to prepare mentally for that, because the voice typically is in a good shape. But I think the key is in your head, because when I was in my old bands like Despise and Imperial Foeticide and everything, and I went to studio, I felt I wasn't able to do the job because my head was too focused on getting the technique right and being precise and everything, and there was no emotion to it, and it was all kind of restrained. But later on, as the years passed, I realized that what you have to do is to put some emotion in it. And you have to get relaxed in the studio. And that was the biggest challenge, go to the studio, be comfortable, because, the voice is there, you had practiced your songs, but you then just have to let it go, let off the constraints. So that's the studio thing. And you should not be comfortable with the outcome. So you have to work on it until it's actually good. So I think I only cracked that, in the recent years. When it comes to live shows, similar thing. It's all about the head. You have to be there mentally, right? You have to be relaxed, and you have to put everything into it. It's a little bit of acting. It's a little bit of drama, but it's the emotions you have to put into it, because the technique, if you have rehearsed, you don't need any luck, nothing. You've got the foundation, but you have to add something on the top of the foundation, because people don't want the technique. People want the emotion. People want the drama. People want, to see something happen.
That's true. That's so true. Now, what's the scene in the Czech Republic like? The reason I say that is because I got a taxi the week from Prague Airport into Prague 1, and the taxi driver was blasting Rammstein out, and I got there and we had a chat about metal, and he was telling me about the scene in Czech Republic, and he said it's nearly nothing. Yeah,
I think I would probably agree with that. So most people will obviously know the big names, but think about this. It's a country of 10 million people, but is there a band that is able to headline international festivals?
No.
That is able to headline a tour? Not really. I mean, you go back and you think about Master's Hammer. which is like a cult black metal band that influenced the Norwegians. And they came back briefly and they did like big shows and everything. But it's an old band that started in 1990. Then lately, you've got a band called Cult of Fire, which is a black metal. I mean, they can play a big show at Hellfest, get a decent slot and everything. They can headline shows. But they had been working on that for a long time. But aside of these two bands, I cannot name any band that really made it big recently, internationally. Of course, within the country, I mean, bands are comfortable to do this, but internationally, not really. So, I mean, if you compare that with Poland or Sweden,
exactly,
it's that's like we've got a gap.
I don't understand it. There's a massive gap there, and it's for you, mate. So, the Czech Republic is famed for beer. Which band or artist would you like to have a big night on the ale with? The Pilsner Urquell, the beer's flowing. Which band would you want to be with?
Well, I think we kind of made some of the dreams come true, but obviously, I think the guys from Marduk would be, good pals to, have beer with. I mean, Morgan, I know, is a fan of Slovak beer, but I'm sure that he would enjoy the Czech beer as well.
Of course.
I think the guys from 1349 from Norway, would be, Frost. Good guys to,
the best drum in the world, mate.
Oh yeah, no, I had some tequilas and beers with him back in June in Oslo. And
really? Tell me about it. What's he like? I've met him once, but I didn't have a beer with him.
Well, I think he's a pretty cool guy because what was happening is there was a big festival in Oslo, but at the back of it there was also an event when 1349 as a band were releasing their own beer in one of the Oslo's bar, right? So that's what was happening. And Frost came to that pub, right from the concert in his kind of leather jacket and not with the paint, but with the spikes and everything. And he was absolutely fine to chat with. So, and if you think about it, he at the same time was having this special show at the Monk.
With Satyricon.
So he was, exactly, with Satyricon. So the whole floor in one of the most famous museums in the country. And you talk to the guy, he's drunk, he's having, a good time talking to you, but that he's also having one floor exhibition, reserved for exhibition of his work at the most famous museum. So, I mean, that was awesome. Cool. Yeah, so, absolutely.
So touring, what's on the agenda? Have you done many shows up to now? I saw you did Brutal Assault, and what does the future hold for gigs?
Yeah, well, we haven't done as much as we wanted. So obviously we had a live premiere at Brutal Assault, the last year. And since then we had, just a handful of shows. But, we're definitely poised to be a touring band. So we're in talks. So there is something coming up for the next year. So hopefully we'll be able to confirm that and reveal that soon. So we should be kind of hitting, many European countries in autumn 2023, because obviously things are a little tight at the moment because slots are taken, tours are there, everything had been booked because of the COVID and postponed everything, so we have to be waiting. But we absolutely want to play in as many places as possible, because I think this music is actually supposed to be delivered live. So
have you done many shows?
Well, we've done a handful, so not as many as we would want to.
I see. Now, what gigs, festivals would be on the band's bucket list?
So for the next year, we're talking about 2 festivals in the Czech Republic. So one of them is going to be Enter the Eternal Fire. And the other one is going to be at Armageddon of Decibels. So obviously both are yet to be officially confirmed, but we are talking about, some other stuff. And we just, we definitely want to play outside the Czech Republic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So things are still shaping up. So
awesome.
More news to come, hopefully.
For an end of year special, we're in October now. I'm planning on a show with the heaviest riffs of all time. In your opinion, what's the heaviest riff of all time? Now, there's so many obvious ones out there, but just give me an obscure one that I can throw you in for. One that gives you that whole stink face, that whole, like makes you drive faster or.
Well, I think we'll be able to find a few things, so.
Give me one or two and I'll choose.
Yeah, so, all right. So it can be a tune that I like, right?
Absolutely.
That makes me,
I hope you do.
Well, yeah, well, Suffocation. So you can play Catatonia
Yeah.
or Funeral Inception, and it always makes my blood boil.
Love it.
Yeah, yeah, and then you take anything from Immolation, Hereinafter.
Immolation,
and I
great.
think you've got the exact Orpheus for gods.
Yeah.
And Father, the Father.
Yeah.
Could be it. So I think you should take one of these two.
I'll pick that. I'll put
I think that will apply.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's
for
cool.
For most of the band members in Altar's Ablaze, you won't go wrong with these two bands, to be honest. Yeah.
Now, looking forward, and you've mentioned it earlier about the second album, how do you think the band will evolve for album 2? Or is it too early to tell?
I think in a way it's a little early to tell, but I think we will want to push things even further, because even though Life Desecration feels quite extreme, as a blend of black and death metal and the blasting stuff and the kind of the lyrics and everything, but in a way it doesn't feel extreme enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we'll want to push it a bit more.
Wow.
Even a bit more. Yeah. Much more if you ask me, because I think there is a way to go. So it will have to be more extreme.
I'm looking forward to that. Now, what message do you have for the people who don't know you yet or, going to get to know you? What's the message?
Well, the message is we'll obviously appreciate if you check us out. If you're a fan of black metal and death metal, if you enjoy both things, I'm sure you're going to enjoy Altar's Ablaze as well. Not many people like both of things, but if you like both genres, and if you like it extreme, if you don't want kind of things that are atmospheric, melodic, mellow, nice, friendly. If you want something extreme, something that is not necessarily nice, but something that has hooks, something that has got its own thing, that you cannot necessarily relate to other bands, something that has got its own thing going, just check us out, right? If you're missing the old stuff like Diabolic, Angel Corpse, or Marduk and stuff, but with own personal touch, I think you may enjoy this.
Awesome. Finally, Michael, what track from the album should I play next and why?
Well, I think if you go ahead with the first track on the album, for the lifeless love of the crucified corpse, I think that is a good representation of the album, because it has got all the elements of our style in it, and you absolutely get the idea of what the band is about, because I think that actually that song has everything that the band stands for. So that would be my recommendation. And my second recommendation would be kind of a shorter track towards the end of the album, which is called Beneath the Smoldering Ruins. It's a straightforward track, but again, a blend of things that we like.
Brilliant. I'll start with that. Michael, thanks so much for joining me on the show. Good luck with the album and the tours that follow. I'm going to see you on your road soon. In fact, I'm going to see you in a few weeks.
Well, I hope so. Thank you, Dan. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for the space and support.